Good evening, traders, and morning and afternoon, I guess. Welcome to the pre-market analysis that we do every single Wednesday. Now, we did push it to Thursday this week, so thanks for joining us this morning for our pre-market breakdown. Can you give you guys a little bit of a breakdown what's going to happen this morning? So once I'm done speaking here, Beth's going to come on. She's going to be going through the names that she's looking at today, any macro events that happen over the course of this evening, anything that we should be looking for today, as well as going through the bigger picture items, commodities, ETFs, bigger cap names, etc. that make sense to be looking at. Once that's done, I'm going to pop on and we're going through the names that are gapping up, gapping down from an individual standpoint. We'll go through those names from a technical standpoint and as well talk about the news associated with those gap up, gap downs. We'll also go over the ETFs that makes sense to be looking at for today. Typically the SPY Qs, IWM. We'll probably look at the SMH as well, the VIX, and then we'll go through the FANG. After that's done, I'm going to pass over to Selpeach. Selpeach will come on, go through any of the individual names that he's looking at. He'll be going through the bigger picture items as well, macro, anything macro from a macro standpoint, and then we'll do a quick little recap of those individual names that I talked about right before the open. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, pass it over to Beth, guys, and I will talk to you shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Pre-market here at SpartanTrading.com. This is what we do every morning before the market starts. Give analysis, master technician, Spartan does his thing, and then we have lots of fun. We're going to do a little bit some fun stuff this morning. We're going to actually do seasonality, a little bit of that, and we have to. I also want to look at what's going on with the Chinese market. Okay, so overnight, what happened here? Look, Japan's in dire straits. I mean, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist, but this has been going on for decades. And look, they keep buying and they keep buying and they keep buying their equity and bonds. And at what point do they? I mean, it's just remarkable what's going on right now over there, right? Loan rate. Yes. Wait a minute. It didn't update. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I gotta put the. Okay, here we go. Japan exports better than expected, I guess you could say. 28 better, this is lower, whatever, AU. This is just fantastic what goes on in Australia. It's just remarkable. I love to follow this country because it gives us a sense in terms of, don't forget it's one in that Pacific Rim and it's part of the Belt and Road Initiative. And you get to see the strength or weakness in certain components of those countries out there. And Australia just is really quite something, really quite something. Loans, this is important, kept it the same. Prime rate the same, okay, and there's still Congress still is meeting. Look, she is he's getting dangerous, okay, and I'm not saying this lightly. Just some of the stuff he's doing to his citizens is equal to Mao. Some of the stuff he did, not as aggressive and heavy-handedly, but subversively. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Okay, all right. PPI, way better than expected, right? So we're starting to see, and this is what, this feeds into something like Jeremy Siegel, what he's saying. He says, he and I are passionate as a South Beach, are passionate about the total incompetence of this Fed, okay? They eased too long, and now they're going to tighten too long. And they were so heavy-handed. Let's see what happens. Because don't forget, okay, when you run off your balance sheet and you raise rates, that is a double tightening, right? It's not single, it's a double tightening, okay? And they've been running off their balance sheet, right? And they're raising rates. And they should not be doing both aggressively. And this is the problem we face right now, okay? Oh boy, Philadelphia. I mean, it's okay. We got jobless claims initial. It used to be important. It's not as important as it is now today, right? Like I say, I look at the Dallas. I like to look at the Atlanta, stuff like that. Existing home sales coming out. See how that plays out. We got auctions, 8 week for a week. And we got what, 1, 2, 3, 4 Fed heads talking. They got to get in there, right, before the quiet period starts, which is next week. They got to get the, pound of flesh, right? Okay. Earnings still fantastic. I mean, I seriously, it is. Okay, so what we're seeing is huge divergence right now. Okay, so, and the reason why I know all these things is because, I'm in these leverage inverse ETFs, right, as hedges, right? So my FNGD is up slightly and my FNGU is down. And I'm in a lot of energy names. Those are working well. It's just fascinating to see what's going on right now. So what am I expecting? Right now, I'm expecting, believe it or not, a bounce in the small caps for the next day or so. It's really extended. We're getting a little bit of a bounce out of China, and that's why we're going to focus on that as well today. And we'll just see how things play out, right? They were accumulating a American Airlines calls yesterday, like big time, okay? They were also accumulating AT&T for like a week, which is really fascinating too. All right, what do we got? All right, so the airlines continue to strut their stuff, raise guidance. Dana here, oh, nice, raise guidance. Alaska Air, now Alaska Air and Delta and American Airlines. So these are really good companies. Okay, so they're obviously got the groove going on. Right, Sky didn't fall with AT&T. So what are we looking for? Like we're looking for something like bad news, good action. So what would that fall under? That would be like a Philip Morris, right? But Philip Morris to me is at this level, this price is a dividend trade, right? So watch the rails, Union Pacific beat, right? And we'll see how things play out, continue to play out. Okay, what do we got? Carolyn Borden was looking at VLO yesterday, right? Her target in on it on an extension, 1.618. This is why you do these fibs, is because it gives you price targets, right? So her extension price target is 128 to 132.91. Now, what was notable about this was a meaningful cycle low. Okay, price and time. Okay, so the time one came in on the 12th. And the price one came in on the 12th as well. Okay. And that was the low print. Okay. These are pretty powerful stuff. Right. And you can see that we have, when this starts to rally, you can see it has this is daily, so it's multiple weeks. Okay. Look, we talked about these yesterday in the room. Okay. And I've been really articulate in pounding the table on why the hell would you not be buying the crazy ass dip we saw in a lot of these refiners? It checks all the boxes. Divvy, right? Check. Forward PE multiple valuation, check, right? And the reality is OPEC is not going to let this thing go below $80. No matter what the president does, you might as well take a little drop of full in an ocean as to what's going on with what the president's trying to do. It's basically the oil policy in the United States. The only president that ever addressed it was Ronald Reagan, going back that far. You're talking 1970s, 80s. That's how long it's been that Democrats and Republicans have done absolutely nothing to do anything with the energy. It's a failed policy. It's been failed for decades. So don't be pinning anything on any one individual. Everybody should hang their head in shame. Oh, geez. Japan's credit, central bank, emergency bond buying. It's sad. It's really sad because basically my background is East Asian studies, right? Anthropology and East Asian studies, okay? And historically, I have such admiration for their culture, both Japanese and Chinese. We're not talking about recent, we're talking about, even recent. I just hope and pray that, the young people of China rise up. That's all I hope and pray. Okay. UK Treasury is now paying the Bank of England to cover its losses from the quantitative easing. Twins and I were talking about this. I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty damn sure I would be pretty damn sure, okay, that countries are selling our bonds. The thrusts of these moves down, okay, this is not moms and pops stuff. And I don't even think this is institutional. I think these are central things. Or don't forget, outside the United States, countries, their pension, okay, it's like, think about every state pension combined. That's what you get in terms of these reallocations, right? There comes a point in time, right, where they basically have to support their local stock market, the local bonds and all that stuff, the local currency. And I really do believe that's happening right now. And I've talked about this, right? Okay, what do we got here? All right, Hang Seng Tech is down 72% year to date. Wow. 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 Copper, watch out for copper right now. I've talked about this. I actually like aluminum right now, steel more than copper. And part of it is let's talk about the progression. Copper's being replaced, right? I mean, who amongst us, any plumber, whatever comes in, who amongst us, they don't use copper pipes anymore, right? They use PVC, whatever it is, right? I think copper is becoming less and less important as an industrial metal. Okay, so anyways, that's my story sticking to. China's taxes on households are radically lower than other economies. Hey guys, you want to go with a tax rate of 1%? You want to go? Even look at this. And they just came out with the reallocation, right, of the 2023 tax brackets. Yeah, right. So United States is here. Oh, Canada, God bless your little hearts. Your top dogs, dogettes. It's the Canadian way, right? Well, maybe the Commonwealth way, but anyways, well, I can't say that. That's not the right thing to say. Anyways. All right, so let's take a look at here, Liz. All right, this is what it looks like. Once again, why wouldn't you be in energy on any meaningful dip? Theories, valuation. And what's happening is, as I discussed, we're getting a divergence between the refiners and the physical. And that's just, I nailed that, right? I told you, refiners were going to start to outperform the physical. And guess what? Especially into earnings, refiners are going to outperform physical, right? All right, let's take a look here. Stocks close lower as earnings inflation. You know, it's bonds, it's bonds, it's bonds. It is bonds, okay? Ukrainian moved from, I have to show it to you because it's meaningful, but as all right. Hello? Washington officials traded stocks with exquisite timing. Now, some sold in 2022, but what administration was in power then? So who was running this thing? And it doesn't matter, I would be equally harsh on any political party. This is bullshit and they do it all the time. When are they going to basically close these loopholes? Okay, bullshit. China's surveillance state pushes deeper into citizens' lives. Yeah, this is Mao point 2. All right, a tech scam called pig butchering cost her more than $1.6 million. What the hell? We talked about this yesterday. I don't understand that. All right, so lobbyists are coming full bore. Look, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Catastrophic flooding in Nigeria uproots millions and severs gas production. Okay, here we go. Do not underestimate the far-reaching tentacles, okay, of weather. Whether it's a drought or a flood, a hurricane or whatever, the far-reaching tentacles. Okay, let's talk about, this is what it looks like right now. This is the season X, right? We haven't looked at it in a while, but you know, what was interesting about this, that Lam Research had 100% statistical probability that it would go up with this earnings cycle, right? Broadcom is 90, Sumco, right? Signature Bank, URI is interesting at 90%. Okay. All right. So let's take a look. BlackRock as well. All right. So what do we got? This is Amazon. So what I did was I went back as far as I could, 25 years on Amazon, right? And then I layered in, okay, the midterm elections going back to 1998. And this is kind of what it looks like. You have this low here, and then eventually you have this price action. So it's 50-50. Now, if you buy it here, right? It's this dip that comes in mid-November is the one you want to buy. 10 out of 12 midterm elections, it gets bought up at 8.75%. And then as you see at the midterms, right, it's 50-50. Okay, so you wait for the dip to buy it. Okay, Apple, let's talk. Midterms, going all the way back to 1982, 2-year cycle, right? 15 out of 20 midterm cycles, up 9%. Okay, and it starts down here. Now, this is what's really fascinating, right? Is because the cycle hasn't started yet. Okay, and I think basically what we're seeing right now is these shifts. Okay, so this is happening later, okay, like a month later. So this is going to start happening, I think, from November to December. Then we're going to get a rally. This is me talking out loud. That's what I'm thinking right now. And that's why it's really, really, really complicated to use seasonality right now, because of the bear market that we're in and all of this intervention in terms of, you know, QT and yada, yada, and the bonds and yada, yada. It really makes it complicated, right? But eventually, if it sees its way through. Here you go, right? So this is Google, right? Not a good look going back 2006. 6 out of 8 midterms, Google goes down 4.7. Once again, I think this was basically because of the bear market that was front run. Okay, so I think this has already happened right now, and I think we're going to get a rally as a result of that. That's what I'm thinking right now, but you never know, right? And here's Meta. Okay, well, yeah, that's Meta. All right, so let's see what Seeking Alpha's got going on right now. China holds emergence dog with semiconductor companies. So the Biden administration has got the Chinese government's attention. Who would have thunk that the Biden administration would get their attention? Report beats. Recession warning, Bezos says to batten down the, well, dude, well, I mean, it's, hello. It's already baked in. I mean, we're getting there, right? I mean, you can't have this inversion, yield curve inversion without a recession within, 6 to 8 months. All right, so that's not new news. This is kind of interesting out of AT&T. Somebody knew what was going on here. There was crazy ass buying of the calls. All right, earnings are better than expected. We need to talk about rent inflation. We do need to talk about rent inflation. The same way that mortgage is obscene, guess what? Rent inflation is obscene. And I have no idea, and these guys aren't lowering it. I told you about my friend who basically wasn't allowed. He has to file bankruptcy to shut them up. What is with that? Once upon a time, you could pay maybe 1 month's rent and then leave, right? But if you can't qualify and you don't have any income coming in, what the hell? And what he gets from unemployment, trust me. Anyways, here we go. Okay, so we know obviously that this is 99 point. I'm surprised it's not 100, but they want to hedge themselves. Now we're up to 80. So they baked in 275 basis points. I think that's a huge mistake right now. And if they pivot down to here, the market will rally robustly. Right? So this is what it looked like. Like I say, there was a lot of stuff that went through. Okay, let's take a peek here. So someone is putting hedges on. This is the OIH is like a Schlumberger, right? Oil and gas exploration, Schlumberger, Halliburton, etc. Okay. And then you see here, so that's 6.4 million, right? Look, a lot of these institutions said that oil's going, what did they say, $35, something like that, $45, something like that? Not going to happen. And I'm pretty damn sure a lot of these institutions don't have a very robust position in oil and gas names. I'm just saying, I'm pretty confident about making that statement. Okay, so I'm just saying. Now, you know the rules. For those of you who've been with us a while and those of you new, you always sell the pops and buy the drops. You cannot assume there's going to be a breakout. You sell 3/4 at the top pivot, and then if it breaks out, then you slowly add back in. Because it's like musical chairs, okay? You don't want to be the last one standing in commodities, especially in oil names, right? But you basically have your trailing stops in, see what happens, or you have trailing hedges coming in. I'm in a lot of these because of the divvies. So I just will hedge it, okay, if it starts to break certain levels. It's literally that simple. Okay. There was a sweep and run. It was really interesting. This is so uninspiring. See, EQT, OIH. What do we got? Who's being hyped today? Here we go. ACI Albertsons, ASML, right? Lam Research, they beat, right? Tesla, well, they didn't. Well, I don't know what to look. I'm in puts. That's all I know. And look? A lot of money's on those 200 puts. Okay, that's all I have to say. And don't forget, it is OpX tomorrow. Lots of volume. They tend to front run it into OpX. Okay, so be aware of that. Look at swaggy stocks, look at Max Payne to see some of the stocks. Once again, rocket in the pocket. It's crazy, right? In play, someone's accumulating Dave and Buster. Kind of interesting, right? And that's the CFO. So I'm actually going to do a 0.5% starter on this because it always piques my interest, right? When someone keeps buying and buying and buying and buying, right? Sells. All right, so we had some kind of options. So stock options don't count. PUBM, Nikola, SGen, right? CGen. And the rest basically not impressive. APPF was, 1.9 million. It's a 10% owner. That's nothing, right? And here's one here. This is Foot Locker. This also. So this is what you're seeing in terms of reallocation of assets, right? Trimming positions, whatever. That's to be expected. Okay, let's take a peek at these guys. All right. Once again, these are downgrades. All right. Wingstop, hold. Comerica, neutral. Now this is interesting. Alley, 12.94%. It's a shit show, right? He's a 72% dude from Wells Fargo. Okay. And here's Coupa, right? Neutral to underweight, but Eurasia price target. What is wrong with that? Come on, it just doesn't make that sense. Now, I want to show you something here. So this is going back, okay? This is the past week, 93 downgrades to 36 upgrades. So it's, 2.5 to 1, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So let's take a peek here. All right, we only have one top dog, Oracle, Piper Sandler, Brent, 72% stud, underweight to neutral, raise this thing. All right. So this data dog is kind of interesting, Canaccord, but I'm sorry, Kingsley, you only have 48% success rate. And Deutsche Bank, okay, this is the problem with the market right now, okay? The market doesn't understand that they're following analysts who have a success rate of 10%, 8%, and they're studying stocks because an analyst from Stifel or whatever, from Deutsche Bank, says something, right? And their success rate is 8%, and the market says, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This is Stupid. All right, here we go. TLT is 1. Due for a bounce. And here you have OIH 93, right? XLE 91, right? They're back at it. They want to pick a top in this stuff. When you're railing, you know, in the same way when you're selling off, Keynesian rule 101, you never pick a top, you won't stay solvent. You never pick a bottom, you won't stay solvent. This is how it works. This is why we follow the technicals meaningfully here. Okay, and with what I do, I look at weekly and monthly technicals, and that's when I know it's time to get out. I have quadrants, and that's all I care about. Okay, all right. So let's take a peek here. All right, so I told you that I want to see what the COT looked like on some of these things, right? This is a 10-year note. Okay, believe it or not, asset managers who are short, okay, are basically getting out of that, and they're actually buying bonds. Okay, this is a 10-year. Notable, right? Other reportables are taking profits and they're buying bonds. Okay, it's the leverage funds, okay, that still continue to sell here and here. Usies and measies doing both sides. Okay, and this is what it looks like. So obviously leverage money is aggressively short. Right? Asset managers do have hedges on. This is a lot for an asset manager to be short this much. It's 33.85% is a lot. Okay, and then you see other reportables, yada, yada, yada. Okay, now let's take a look at the currencies. Okay. Let's take a look at the dollar index. Okay. So this is week to week, right? And commodities and futures exchange is incredibly important. Now, these are not a lot, but basically it shows you that leverage funds on the US dollar, short. Asset managers are long up the wazoo. Other reportables, Usies and measies. So the other ones who short the US dollar and kind of taking on the chin is you got it. Now let's see what the Japanese yen looks like. Not a lot, right? But everybody's short it. Asset managers, leverage money, right? Non-reportables. Other reportables are kind of like 50-50. Kind of crazy, right? Let's take a look at the bonds. Yields are up slightly. This is crazy, 2-year, 30-year, and then it's the 5-10 that's getting a lot of stuff going on right now. Canada rates are down across the board, except in Germany, right? And all in the Asia Pacific rim as well. Here's the 5-year. Trying to break out. Look, there's a disconnect, and we talk about this every single time, okay? We talk about this in terms of this inversion, where we are in this, where we should be. There's a huge disconnect. And I think the disconnect is as follows. And I think, you know, I'm starting to gather this opinion, is that basically it's because of the balance sheet of the Fed is so high. So they're basically, instead of doing it on the interest rate side, they're basically also, well, they're doing it on the interest rate side, but they're not doing it nonstop. And that's because they have this huge balance sheet, which is a double tightening, right? So I think that's what's going on right now. Now, don't forget, they control what they take off, right? And, you know, it looks like they're taking off the 30-year mortgages, okay? So, look, this Fed will go down in history as one of the most, well, I think it's going to be the most incompetent, because of the true test of any Fed is what do you do, not in good times, but in bad times, correct? Makes sense to everybody, right? So, excuse me. Yeah, I apologize. Sorry. Sorry. 5:30. It's, I can't tell you. It's the 10-year. Yes, we have a way to go. And we talked about this. All right, we're at this key pivot, right? We break. Guess what? We got to. Why would you know? Why wouldn't you gap fill? I mean, if you're all the way down here, you're going to set your sights on this gap fill, right? And that's the natural progression, right? In terms of, you know, when you're inflation, this should happen. It's just things are such a quagmire here, right? So here you have Chinese rates, right? They're going to, yeah. And here you have the German rates are going higher, right? Let's take a look at the dollar. You know, if someone's jobless claims down, like, okay, there you go. Let me ask you this, okay? If you just saw this, you'd say, okay, that's flagging consolidation, still bullish consolidation, right? It's not rocket science here, friends. Okay, this is $1, right? You think this is weak? Yeah. It's consolidating. As long as it holds these extensions, okay, it could even revert back to the mean, okay, down here, and it's still bullish, right? Think about it. So let's take a look here, right? This was the low in the dollar, right? Most recent low. So this is how I do it. Okay, so you could have a pullback down here. You can see this is a pivot point. It's also a reversion to the mean. Still bullish. The uptrend hasn't been broken. Once again, I'm telling you right now, I've been telling you this for over a month now. We're going, I think, above 8. That's my story I was thinking to shout it out for you guys bright and early down here. And you know, I did. I said, okay, we're going higher here. What was my narrative? Quantitative easing. I've been talking about quantitative easing for months in China, right? And we're starting to see that. Cryptos, yeah. All right, let's talk. Commodities. Yesterday was a sea of red. Today's a sea of green. Like I say, if you micromanage your commodity positions, you will never be successful. Never, ever, ever, ever be successful. Okay? You won't. Copper's bouncing. I still like aluminum. I still like steel better. And I really like silver. I think silver is so important for EV, for battery, all kinds of stuff, right? And then you continue to see the orange juice. But lumber. Let's talk about lumber here. We'll get through this, TBC, right? That's holding fine. All right, here's natty gas. Okay. All right, we're still holding here. I want to see what the close looks like. If we close above this double bottom, I will start to buy, just so you know. Or if it reclaims on the boil, the 46, it'll be a starter. So this is the physical against the natty gas company. This is CTRA now, right? See how it's collapsing the price against the refiner. Boil, okay. We're here, double bottom, potentially triple bottom. We have to be patient, okay? But like I say, if it can hold this triple bottom, then I'm gonna buy probably a 0.5% position size. Equinor, you can see this right here, sideways consolidation. This is a bullish consolidation, upper quadrant. GLNG, bullish consolidation, upper quadrant. These are the natty gas names, right? Consolidation, still holding fine, the different fibs. Let's see if it breaks this down, trend line. I don't trade these like next, and unless the only one I trade is TEL, DLNG, trying to consolidate lower quadrant. Let's see if we can start. All of these are setting up. So here's TEL, right? I might, if we can break this down trend line, this is a monthly chart, right? I'll probably start grabbing some longer dated TEL calls.
All
Normally,
right, Beth, ready to pop on here. Ready to get going. All right, guys, if you are new to chat, have already done so, make sure to click on the Discord link that's emailed to you. When you guys do comment in the Discord, it's going to look something a little bit like this. I'm just going to pop up the screen share here. If you come into the Discord, it's going to look a little bit something like this. First area you go to, guys, when you do come in, if you are new, go to that new to chat information section as well as disclaimer section. You can both read. Go to that new to chat information section, though. Scroll to the very, very top. Top of the section, you see a link to the disclaimer, and right below this bolded risk reward section. Make sure to go through that, understand how it works. Would not be trading real money until I fully understood how risk reward worked, because it's the key to profitability in trading. If you don't skew this ratio in your favor over the course of time, you can't make money. So understand how it works, control risk properly, make sure you're putting yourself in opportunities that have enough money to, or have enough upside or downside if you're going short, to give you that 3-to-1 risk reward ratio. And yeah, if you go through that section, you got a bunch of videos explaining how that works. You got risk reward profiles on top, and this risk reward calculator as well, which you can use to calculate risk reward on the go. Continue to scroll down, new to chat information section. You have summary of how this chat works, breaks down all these channels work on the left-hand side. important scenario to be looking during the while we're trading during the day. Below this, how to read alerts on the options and equity side. Pretty straightforward in that regard. Options rules are used Monday to Thursday. All the rules are there. SPX rules right below that as well for SPX trades. Below this, anyone with a small account less than 10K, breaking down if you do have a smaller account less than 10K, here's some rules, information, discipline you can put in place so you can better manage your account, better chance of growing it in our opinion. And lastly, how to pick trades from an options or equity perspective with the ideas that we give. All right, let's take a look what we got going on today, guys. Couple different things. I'm just going to quickly throw this chart on here as well. There we go. So what are we looking at today, guys? So today, a couple earnings plays, pre-market tickers on watch. We're going to be looking at Tesla, IBM, SMCI, VLO, DDOG, Hook. So Tesla earnings miss, EPS and revs beat. Year-over-year growth 55.9%, stocks gapping down. IBM earnings beat EPS and revs, year-over-year growth negative 19.9%, stocks gapping up. SMCI earnings beat EPS and revs. VLO oil gapping up in continuation. So obviously VLO gapping up. Nice little swing there on that roll that we have on. DDOG gapping up and simply the market or it was. We'll see how it is into the open. Then Hook announced a strategic collab and license agreement with Roche. And this includes 25 million upfront plus options to expand collab with an ad candidate versus 50 million up to 930 million if they hit certain milestones. All right, let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two we're looking at today, guys, Tesla and IBM. Let's have a gander at that. All right, so Tesla, IBM. Tesla obviously pulled back after their earnings yesterday. Let's see what we got. Get all the recent range low levels because that's where we're in that vicinity. Okay. Let's see what we got. Pivot to the downside today, 209.73 levels able to hold. We're back towards 212.34 to 215.36. Unable to hold 206.29 to 204.10. Now earnings weren't, brutal. I'm thinking that we're going to get a little bit of a bounce today. Watch the pivot this morning, though. That's going to be the key. So going to be leaning bullish neutral if the pivot holds. Let's take a look at IBM. Pretty tight ranges on IBM, actually. A ton of resistance and support everywhere. 126.66 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. They got room towards 128.69 to 130.74. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards 124.87 to the 122.72 on the downside. Overall on IBM, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a hold of the pivot, continuation push higher. Daily looks good. I think it does want to test that 50 MA on the upside, which is at, well, actually it's above at 125.75. So that's great. So as long as it can hold that level, should see some continuation to the upside. So leaning bullish on this name for now. Let's take a look at the next two names, SMCI VLO. SMCI 64.55 pivot level hold 66.09 to 68.25. Unable to hold 62.26 to 61.02. Leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Love the fact that this semi was able to push today or push out on the earnings there. And I think it's got some nice room off the low. So we'll see what happens in that regard. VLO Nice little continuation on this one. So this is one that we took on a swing overnight. Obviously, you got that big or that nice breakout on the daily there, which is great. We're gonna be looking to sell some more of the swing. Obviously, on the open. $125.74 pivot levels able to hold. 127.94 to 129.66 will be tested. Unable to hold 122.46 to 119.34 on the downside. Overall on VLO, going to be leaning bullish. Looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point's able to hold as well. Like I said, be looking to take some off out the gate, guys. That's weird. Where did my thing go? There it is. All right, let's take a look at the next two guys. DDOG hook. Despite that market pullback this morning, that just occurred. This thing's holding up pretty damn well. Okay, bunch of pivots. This is trying to hold that monthly range right now, which is okay. 81.16 pivot levels able to hold. You get room back towards 83.99 to 86.20. Unable to hold. 78.14 to the 75.55 level will be tested on the downside. Overall on DDOG, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today. If that pivot point can hold, we got some nice room for continuation higher. That's DDOG. Let's take a look at hook. Okay. Let's see. $240. Okay, so pivot to the upside today. 178 levels able to hold. To get room towards 194 to 240. Unable to hold 155 to the 141 level will be tested on the downside. Overall on hook, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a pop and then a fade after that little morning move, and does get a nice push to the upside. Whoa. There we go. All right. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG here, guys. So what do we got going on in the market? So I talked about this yesterday and I'll talk about it again today, but market obviously, guys, did get a little bit of a pullback into the EMA support. If you guys watch my daily recaps, I go through the SPY every day. But your downtrend break still intact. The EMA support still holding for now. Level that needs to hold around 367. Let's just call it that. It's actually 367.16 actually, according to the chart. So as long as that 367.16 holds, we should get some continuation to the upside. This chart's lagging behind right now. Just an FYI. Did get a little bit of a pullback on the SPY. These are the charts that I use intraday. Just use these in the morning. 1 sec. Let me just pop it up. So 367 is going to be the key level. Just an FYI, but that's a little bit of a pullback that we get to get. Just so you're aware. 370.33 pivot levels able to hold 372 74 to 375 35 will be tested, unable to hold 368.17 to 364.81 on the downside. Overall on SPY get leading bullish, neutral. If that pivot point can hold, we should see some continuation to the upside today. So we'll see if we can get back above 370.33. I think it's going to come back this morning and retest 367, and then we're going to see what's what. And then yeah, it's doing an okay job of holding above that EMA support reclaim on the daily. It's just we got to get that push now, otherwise it's gonna fail. So today I think is the day that we need to see a push off 367 or hold that level to the next leg up. Let's take a look at Apple. Pivot to the upside today, 144.30 levels able to hold 144. Sure, 145.13 to 146.24, unable to hold 142.54 to 140.28. You can see that there's obviously a flag here on the hourly chart. Pivot's gonna be the key thing, gonna be leaning bullish if the pivot point's able to hold. Simply put. Apple nice and resilient yesterday too. Kind of held its range, didn't really pull back. Thought that was pretty impressive. Let's take a look at Amazon. $116.10 levels able to hold towards 119.52, unable to hold 112.47 on the downside, 108.97 if that level breaks. What I'm seeing on these charts, guys, is either you're gonna have an outside day to the upside, or you're gonna get failure at last day's highs and pull back to the bottom range of last day. So if you see the last day high hold up and you see a rejection there, basically look to take these things short into last day's low. It's gonna stay inside that range if it fails, in my opinion. Netflix.
How are you leaning, please?
Bullish neutral on Amazon. Only if pivot can be reclaimed though. 269.47 pivot on Netflix. Levels able to hold. I can get my 286 level. Room towards 276.90, 279.63 to 286.56. Unable to hold 262.65. That level breaks 246.22. Leaning bullish on Netflix. Looking for a continuation grind higher on this name. And yeah, this thing's had great relative strength, held up well after the earnings. I think we can get a nice little push higher now on the name. Let's take a look at Google. Google 98.92 pivot levels able to hold 101.01 to 103.54. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 96.61 on the downside overall on Google. Leading on the bullish neutral side as well today, looking for a push higher if the pivot point can hold. I just realized I think I skipped Meta, so I'm going to go back. Let's take a look at Meta. There we go. Meta pivot to the upside today, 134.05 levels able to hold 137.97, unable to hold 129.60. Going to be leaning more on the bearish neutral side today, unless that pivot can be reclaimed. If it can reclaim, you can push it up to this downtrend, I think, and then I don't think it's going to break through it, but I think you'll get a nice little test, and then it will stay within the basically last day range. Unable to hold, you're looking to probably going to test last day's low pretty quickly, and if that level breaks, of course, you'll break down. So that's Meta. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM. All right, VIX 31.14 level holds 33.02. 235.10 will be tested. Unable to hold 28.89 on the downside overall on VIX. Not leaning any particular direction, but looking for direction on the market with this name. So keep an eye on the VIX. Should give us a pretty good indication which way the SPY wants to go. Let's take a look at the Qs. All right, guys. QQQ. Get this up right here. Boom. 268.68 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold 273.99 to 276.96. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 260.84 if that low breaks. Maybe leaning bullish, looking for a retest of this pivot this morning. If we can break through, we get the next leg up. If we can't, of course, we'll stay within the range. We'll probably trade to the downside, in my opinion, but we'll see how the Qs act. Obviously, you know, Tesla not really helping this name, but we'll see how tech in general acts today. Keep an eye on Microsoft, obviously, as well as Apple and Google with the Qs. And then last but not least, guys, IWM. A little bit of a extension yesterday. I believe that gap filled. We're just going to quickly take a look at the daily. Yep. 171.45. Okay. 171.79 pivot to the upside today. The sell was able to be held. We do have room for continuation higher into the 174.08 to 177.29. Unable to hold 168.84 on the downside. Going to be leaning on the well, it's really going to depend on the pivot for this guy. So if the pivot holds, we're going higher. If the pivot breaks, we're going lower. Simple as that. Probably leaning more on the bullish neutral side though, just because we got that daily EMA support. So that's the IWM. All right, guys. So that's the SPY. That's the FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at. Going to quickly take a look at the SMH as well, because I think this is super important. Now, SMH has looked like garbage compared to the rest of the indices because it has been unable to reclaim some short-term EMA support on the daily, which is a big deal. Now, got a bunch of pivots to the upside. Okay, so 180.07 will be the key level today. You're able to hold that. You got room towards that EMA resistance on the daily, which is going to be that 184 level. Let me just label all this. Call it 180.16 actually. You got room towards 184.37 if you're able to hold 180.16. Unable to hold 174.01 to 166.67 on the downside. Going to be leaning bullish if the pivot can hold this morning. We'll see what happens. You know, semis have had a hard go as of late. SMCI obviously a little bit instructive for those types of names, but we'll see. Keep an eye obviously on NVIDIA, AMD, etc., etc. All right. So anyways, now I'm going to go and pass over to South Beach, guys, while I type up that pre-market action plan. We'll come back on, do a quick little recap of everything we talked about, and then we'll be good to go. South Beach, you're ready. It's all yours for now.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the other thing tomorrow, okay, about hedge funds in the morning, for obvious reasons, okay? You guys who are members, I told you why this morning, yesterday, all right? So this is, you know, you guys paying good money, you're going to get good value, all right? Anyway, let's move on to the matters for today, and we'll talk about this tomorrow morning. It doesn't really change anything other than I was preparing for this, but that's how it goes. All right, so let's move on. Let's look at the bond market today. So we have this trust leaving. That is no surprise, guys. We've been talking about it for a couple of days. It actually was in my notes that I thought she was going to leave. Politics is a rough game, you know. So let's see what we have in the bond market today. The 10 years at 4.15, which is a new high. Okay. Let me just see something here. Stay with, oh, I see why. If I'm in my bedroom, my Wi-Fi is one thing, and if I'm in my office, it's another, and it's so bad. for some reason. I don't know why, if you don't have the right one. So anyway, it's a new high, 415. Definitely problematic for equities. The 2 years at 460, that's up a little more. And we have a 45 basis points differential. Okay, inversion. Okay, that's the bond market, and that is a problem. Let's look at London. Okay, futures are legitimately all over the place this morning. It's really quite extraordinary. Last night I went to bed, it was down 25 handles. I came in this morning, they were down 11, then they were up 14, now they're down 6. Pretty crazy. Which maybe means we're not going to, it'd be best not to trade the market today. Just look for individual stocks until we can get some clarity on what's what here. So anyway, the 10-year in London, very quiet at 384. 2 years at what? 349. So flat yield curve, okay, but not inverted. Germany's rates keep creeping up, okay, they're 241. Remember, they started the year at a -50, but I can argue that the real rate is actually lower now than it was back in January, simply because with inflation running, call it 10%, and a bond at 2.4, real rates are -7.6. They were never -7.6, okay? So this is probably, the real rates are probably even lower than they were when they were negative, which is a little head scratching, if you know what I mean. 10-year bond, France just follows Germany. Let's call it the way it is, okay? It's like, Big Poppy and Little Bro. Japan staying where it is. Interestingly enough, I don't know, Canadian rates were up a lot this morning, they're back down. I thought that was kind of strange because they're pretty pragmatic. But anyway, that's the bond market, certainly providing a lot of competition for equities, okay, at the very least. Let's look at commodities. This thing will populate. Okay, so we got oil up a bone, all right, at 93. So this whole rhetoric about more, SPR, oil coming on right in front of the midterms and all this other BS that these politicians spew upon us. It's up nevertheless. And gas is actually down a little bit, which is a little surprising. So 541 is from 950, that's just a gigantic move. You've got to say, holy shit, that's incredible. All right. What did rates just go up again? Hold on. Okay. So this is problematic, guys. No sugarcoating it. Gold, silver, copper. Copper is at the bottom of its trading range for obvious reasons, recession, etc. Use less copper, industrial metal, etc. Agricultural commodities kind of hanging out at the bottom of its recent trading range as a general rule. Coffee really, really fell out of bed. That's probably good for Starbucks, but I hate Starbucks for the obvious reason that they're making a huge bet in China, and I think that's a really bad bet. So, they say it's going to be bigger than the US, and I say you're making a big mistake, fellas. So I don't think the price of coffee is going to make up for the money they're going to lose if the China situation gets worse and it becomes a Russia situation where every company has to leave. And that's, I think, a real possibility one day. Okay. So that's commodities. Currency wise, dollars down against North America, pretty much flat against the yen at 150. That's like, a 30-year high or something to that effect. Flat against China. Euro is flat and the pound is flat. Okay, so currency is pretty quiet this morning. And crypto, which I think, is like watching grass grow, pretty much unchanged in Bitcoin, pretty much unchanged in Ethereum, and down 2% in Solana, below 30. Okay, and last but not least, let's look at the foreign markets with all this nonsense we have this morning. FTSE's barely moved. The DAX is down 0.3%, which is really nothing. Russia's up 2%. This Hong Kong is a year low. Taiwan is a year low. And China's down a little bit. That market stinks too. And Nikkei was down 1%. So that's the backdrop. Turning to things going on today, you got the banks and the Fed. We got 4 Fed governors speaking. Movie star time for these clowns. So you know what they're going to say. So why do they keep rolling them out? China. So they have that Congress, we all know, right? So they're spewing this zero COVID policy, which is, I think, really stupid. And they're changing the name of Xi, if you read the notes, to leader, which is what they kind of call Mao Zedong. So this guy has, kind of complete control over there, it appears, which is pretty, I think, pretty negative for China and the Chinese people, and I think pretty negative for the world, quite frankly. But we've been discussing this for a long time. Now he's meeting with chip firms today, trying to get their arms around the US policy of not selling them advanced chips and what they're going to do about it. That's China. Russia is scorched earth policy in Ukraine. They've knocked out 30% of their power using these Iranian drones. You got to scratch your head, guys, because Iran's developing a nuclear weapon, and that could be a real problem someday if you don't take care of it now. So we'll see what happens, but my guess is nothing happens and they continue to do what they do. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day you wake up and Israel is on the warpath. It wouldn't shock me. Free fall. I wouldn't call it free fall yet. Oil we discussed. I think, so who had a comment on oil today? I think it was JP Morgan. Sees it possibly going to 150 a barrel next year. Crypto, we discussed the dollar, Mr. Market yesterday. What we have? Certain groups got annihilated, like China. Pharma was bad. High PE tech was crappy. Solar, EV, etc. Okay. The weak groups should stay weak through the end of the month at the very least, in my opinion. Okay. So trust, I was going to say, should be, is on the ropes and could be gone today. That actually did happen. Bullard spoke yesterday. He's going to raise rates through early next year. That's what he sees. And they're going to keep them high. Okay. So this stagflation narrative is really, all over the papers this morning. Okay. Very little growth, no growth actually, and inflation. And that's what I think is going to be the narrative, and that's what it looks like is going to be the narrative, and that is probably the worst medicine for equity prices, equity valuation, stagflation. Europe is importing a lot of ethanol from Brazil to try to make up for their energy situation. Plus, they're doing a lot of, using a lot of coal, all bad for the environment. And the US has all this natural gas that's just sitting there that we don't want to use. Makes you scratch your head a little bit. Italy's Berlusconi, he's like super, I don't know what you would call him. But anyway, he says this whole thing is Zelensky's fault. Russia's not to blame, which is really hard to listen to. Philip Morris increased their bid for Swedish Match. Tesla. We'll talk about the earnings, but Musk did say yesterday that he sees a path that Tesla's valuation would be higher than Apple and Saudi Aramco combined. So the only way I could see that happening, guys, is if he has something in your backyard that basically cuts the cord with the utility companies. And I think that's a possibility, quite frankly. But we'll see. I think it's a long way off, but I do think that's the brass ring for sure. Goldman saying cyclical stocks at one of the lowest valuations that they've seen. Jeff Bezos spoke this morning. He's worried about this new recession. Get ready for the recession. Solomon at Goldman said the same thing yesterday. Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan is saying the same thing. I think stagflation is, I think the Fed is just overdoing it, and we're going to have stagflation. They're causing the growth to slow immensely. The only head scratcher is the airlines, and I think that was people were locked up, they needed to travel, and I don't think it'll last, but we'll see. Okay. Morgan Stanley is saying S&P earnings are still too high, which I agree with. Biden, he gave out $2.8 billion to EV companies yesterday to boost battery production. He's trying to secure enough lithium to to satisfy the EV demand that's coming. And as far as oil companies are concerned, he thinks they should stop buybacks and put the money into increasing production, which if you follow, if you know anything about economics or running a business, you would say to yourself, that's the most outrageous thing I've ever heard. Why should they do that? Because if they spend money on increasing production and we go from oil to EV during the life, it changes the economics of the transaction. So unless he's going to give them an economic incentive to spend money on increasing drilling and increasing production, they ain't going to do it. So, he changes the narrative for most Americans who don't understand. And he refuses to embrace a transitional period between, what we have today and the green future that we have. And that's a little sad, actually. Musk says he's overpaying for Twitter. Jobless claims came in 213 versus 230. And this weekend, NATO and Russia are both doing war drills to prepare for a nuclear event. Chew on that for a little bit, huh? Doesn't sound so warm and fuzzy, does it? Okay, as far as earnings are concerned, guys, we have IBM, which came in good, right? We have Telephone, which was decent. LRCX came in good as well. Is that stock still up? Yep, a little bit. LVS in line. American Express looked pretty okay. American Airlines beat, and these stocks are down this morning for some reason. I don't know why. They were up a bit ago, but American Airlines increased. They gave you numbers 2 weeks ago, and they even beat those. So that was American Airlines. Blackstone was okay. Slob was decent, and FCX was in line-ish. Okay. On the negative side, you have Allstate. Now this one I find really interesting. Okay, so they missed their numbers because of what words did they use? The Florida event, a catastrophe, I think they called it. I think they call it catastrophic loss. Okay. Generally, guys, catastrophic loss for the insurance business is a major positive. So you say to yourself, why would it be a positive? Okay. Because they have the ability now to raise rates for the whole country. Okay. And they'll recoup that loss in a minute, and they won't lower prices. So think of it this way. Let's say they lost, I don't know, let's call it $10 billion. I'm picking a number. All right. And so they increase rates this year to recoup that $10 billion. And they increase rates nationally enough to recoup the $10 billion. Okay. Well, next year, let's say we don't get an event. All right. But are they going to reduce that? They're going to reduce the increase? Of course they're not. Okay, so generally, as a rule, catastrophic events like this, I don't like to buy, let's see how it acts today, but generally I have a 3-day rule here. But let's see if, I like to see it open, and if it recaptures the opening price, I would get long. So let's say it opens, I don't know, let's get 110, 118, and then goes down to 115, and then recaptures 118 and goes north of that. I generally consider that a buying opportunity. So that's how I look at it. But I generally think this is a positive, not a negative. And I don't know why this is down so much. It doesn't make sense to me. This is going on decades of watching insurance companies. Okay. Tesla missed. Okay, big deal. Not a surprise. Nucor, again, this is, best of breed, 2 quarters in a row. You don't see that a lot. All right, Union Pacific missed, down a bunch. That's a CSX reports tomorrow, so guys are going to game that one and short it today for sure. All right, AA missed, no surprise there. The positive bull case in that is they stop buying Russian aluminum. That would be the bull case. If that doesn't happen, this stock will continue to drift south. All right, Danaher, this is the best company, one of the best companies I know. They're definitely a top 10 company, and they missed. Okay, if this company misses, they're all going to miss. All right, this company is not good. It's absolutely mind-boggling, fantastic on steroids. So this is the best management team I know. All right, or one of the best, especially in the industrial complex. In the industrial complex, they're the best. Okay, they missed. That's a warning for all industrial companies. Okay. Who else missed? Tenant Health, Whirlpool. No, these are the ones reporting tomorrow. I'm sorry. Danaher missed, AA. Nokia and Ericsson both missed. Don't really care about them. HPE missed. Tonight we have what? CSX, which guys are going to short today. We have Snap, we have Tenant Healthcare, and we have Whirlpool, which has missed a couple of quarters in a row. 75-25, it's now a 75-50 basis point increase. It's now 95% for 75 and 4% for 50. I don't know who that 4% is, but I would think we're going to get my guess based on everything I'm reading, you're going to get 75 in November, 75 in December, and maybe a small pop in the next one after that, something minor, and then they'll wait and see. That's how I think it's going to play out. Did I discuss China cutting COVID restrictions? Yes, no, I didn't, but yes, they're considering. I don't think they actually did it, Twins. They said they're considering COVID restrictions, but I'll tell you something, guys. I wouldn't buy anything in China, including Win and LVS. Now, I know Twins probably disagrees with that, but the way I look at it, guys, is a lot of girls at the dance. There's thousands of them. Why would you buy something in that is reliant on a place where we may be persona non grata one day? That's how I see it. Now, trade them all day long, okay? All day long. Own them, not on a bet. All right. Anyway, I'm out of time. We'll talk about hedge funds tomorrow morning. I'm all ready to roll on that. And let's trade individual stocks until we can see some direction this morning. But I want, Spartan's been amazing at it, at navigating that whole, trading style. Okay. Anyway, Spartan, it's all yours.
All righty, thank you, Salt Beach. Appreciate it. Let's take a look what we got going on today, guys. If you're new to chat and haven't done so, make sure to click on the Discord link that's emailed to you. If you're coming in from the free Discord chat, you do need to leave the chat or the server first and then click that link. Otherwise, you won't be assigned the new roles to see everything in the room. All right, once you guys do pop in, looks like this. First area to go to when you guys do come in, go to that new to chat information section, give it a read from top to bottom. We'll go over that when we do close down the YouTube stream. And then as well as take a look at the disclaimer. All right, pre-market tickers on watch. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream, you can simply just pause the video at these levels or at these while I'm showing these charts so you can read the pre-market action plan here. There you go there. There you go there. There you go there. And then on the option side, you have the same thing. Oh, it's not posted yet, but I will post it. I'll show you guys when it is. You got all the other charts that we went over, of course. Tesla, IBM, SMCI, VLO, DDOG, and Hook is what we're looking at today. Tesla earnings miss, EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 55.9%, gapping down. IBM earnings beat, EPS and revs, year-over-year growth negative 19.9%, stocks gapping up. SMCI earnings beat, EPS and revs gapping up. VLO gapping up with oil, DDOG gapping up. See with the market actually has some pretty good staying power at the moment. Hook announced a strategic collab and a license agreement with Roche to develop novel aerial naval and immunotherapy for CRAS, basically 25 million up front to collab with them, and then they have the possibility of getting 50 million to 930 million in milestone payments. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. Intraday, first two we're looking at today, guys, going to be on Tesla, and it's going to be IBM. So stick together. Tesla and IBM, my friends. Okay, so I'm actually going to post one thing right before we get going here, which is the market. If you guys don't, follow me on Twitter, I do guide the SPY all day long. All right, Tesla, IBM. So Tesla, 209.73 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold 206.29 to the 204.10. Able to hold 212.34, 215.36. Leaning on the bullish side only if pivot can be reclaimed. IBM, nice little continuation push here. 126.66 pivot level holds 128.69 to 130.74. Unable to hold 124.87 to 122.72. Downside leaning bullish neutral. Going to be looking at the next two here. SMCI VLO. SMCI 64.55 pivot levels able to hold. We have room towards 66.09 to 68.25. Unable to hold 62.26 to 61.02 downside. Leaning on the bullish neutral side there. VLO, let's take a look at this. Pivot to the upside today, 125.74 level holds 127.94 to 129. Unable to hold 122.46 to 119.34 downside. Leaning bullish neutral there as well. Let's take a look at Hook and DDOG. DDOG Hook. $81.16 pivot on DDOG level holds 83.99 to 86.20. Unable to hold 78.14 to 75.55 downside leaning bullish neutral there. Hook pivot 178 levels able to hold 194 to 240. Unable to hold 155 141 leaning bearish for a pop up the gate and then topping for a short. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG market, guys. Today pivot to the upside is going to be the 370.33 levels unable to hold 368.17. 367, guys, huge level on the daily. And then 364.81 to 361.80 downside. Next supports able to hold the pivot or reclaim it 372.74 to 373.35. Was leaning bullish neutral, but if of course the pivot's not reclaimed, I'm going to be leaning more on the bearish side. So we'll see what happens in that regard. But leaning bullish neutral for now. Apple pivot 144.30 levels able to hold 145.13 to 146.24. Unable to hold 142.54, 140.28. Leaning bullish only if pivot can be reclaimed. Otherwise, obviously, it's going to continue to sell off. Same thing with Amazon, guys. Pivot upside 116.10 level holds 119.52. Unable to hold 112.47, 108.97. Leaning bullish only if pivot can be reclaimed. Netflix pivot upside today is going to be 269.47 level holds 279.63 to 286.56. Unable to hold 262.65 to 246.22. Nice bullish consolidation after earnings, holding the pivot. Leaning bullish on this name for continuation higher. Meta. Pivot to the upside today is 134.05 level holds 137.97. Unable to hold 129.90. Leaning on the bearish side today. Only, if it can reclaim the pivot, I think it gets to the downtrend and gets rejected. That's what I'm thinking on that name. Let's take a look at Google. Pivot upside today is going to be 98.92 level holds 101.01 to 103.54. Unable to hold 96.61 downside. Leaning on the bullish neutral side only if this level can hold. VIX Qs IWM. VIX, guys, pivot going to be the 31.14 level hold 33.02 to 35.10. Unable to hold 28.89 downside. We'll see what happens with that. Use the VIX forward direction on the market. Should be very important today. QQQs. 273.99 pivot levels able to be reclaimed towards 279.69. Unable to hold 268.68 to 260.84. Leaning bullish only if pivot can be reclaimed on the Qs as well. Let's take a look at the last but not least, guys. IWM pivot to the upside today is 171.79. Able to hold 174.08. 177.29, unable to hold 168.84. All right, so guys, that's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. It's all going to depend upon these pivot points this morning. I think it's going to give us some really good direction right out the gate. Take a little bit slow at the gate, be a little bit patient, and then once we get our direction, you can kind of hammer things. Probably, if we don't break out to the upside, it's going to be a choppy inside day. And yeah, that's probably about it. Anyways, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. I think Selfie is right, guys. Don't focus on the SPY or the market. Focus on individual names and situations. It'll be easier to trade. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching the YouTube stream. We do this every single Wednesday. I know it's Thursday today. We had to push it today. But yeah, see us next week. If you have any questions, you can go to spartantrading.com, sign up there, or reach out. And yeah, happy to help.